Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana. Ranjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tira. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Nanda Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Now, can I make a suggestion about seating? If you move a little bit over to your left, and you move a little off to your left, and if someone wants to come in, you won't be blocking the door. Okay, very good. Never know. Now, verse 35? 37. Okay. And let me see where we are. Okay, so this is different kinds of happiness, according to 3 modes of material nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 4th day of March 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Page 683, text 37. Right? 37 at the bottom of 683. Got it? Yattad Agre Vishamiva Padiname Amitopamam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atmabuddhi Prasarajam Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Luis. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Jeffrey. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Anyone online want to try to chant? Guess not. Word by words. Yat, which, tat, that, agre, in the beginning. Vishamiva, like poison. Pariname, at the end. Amrita, nectar. Upamam, compared to. Tat, that. Sukham, happiness. Satvikam, in the mode of goodness. Proktam is said, Atma, in the self. Buddhi, of intelligence. Prasadajam, born of the satisfaction. Translation. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmiritam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in the beginning, it'd be just like poison. Okay, let's recount again my first cold shower when I joined the Brooklyn Temple in late winter. Well, early spring. It was the 27th of March. Winter, the spring had just begun, but it's pretty cold in New York in the beginning of winter, beginning of spring. So anyway, I joined the temple, and first thing is, of course, you got to get up real early, maybe 3:30 or maybe at 4 o'clock, you know, to make 4:30 RT. Well, that's not very pleasant, you know. Used to getting up at 6, 7, maybe on Sundays 11 a.m. So suddenly you're getting up 3:30 in the morning, you know. You got to get up in the middle of the night to join this thing. Anyway, get up, got to do it. Then we stand in line, wait for the one shower. There's about 10 of us, brahmacharis. And I'm realizing, you have to do this. You have to take this cold shower in order to, qualify to practice Krishna consciousness, stay in the temple. So that's going through your mind, and I'm thinking, I've already chanted Hare Krishna quite a bit, and so I'm feeling some of the nectar from that, and I'm realizing, and philosophy, the main thing is I read some books, and I was determined, this is pretty valuable. It's worth getting over the hump, you know. So I'm standing, then finally I get to my turn. As far as I could remember, there's no hot water fountain, you know. No, it's either cold or go home. So I get into the shower and turn on, and it's cold, you know. But I remember my pranayama. I had been practicing yoga, and I remember there's a heating breathing. Yeah, it works. So I tried it, and it was like, no big deal. Well, for like, I did my 17-second shower, and got out, dried off, got dressed, went down into Mangalarti. Thanks for coming, Joseph. Haribol. And so, I mean, I can't honestly say that it became just like nectar to take that cold shower, but it wasn't like poison anymore, and it set up my experience. After a while, it became routine, and it's just one thing that you do. And the point is that going to Mangalarti, seeing the beautiful deities of Radha Govinda, chanting Hare Krishna amongst all the devotees, and there was a good amount of us, 60, 70 in the temple at that time. And it was real nectar, you know. So at first it might have been seen as, if you hear about it and you don't know anything about the philosophy, you say, no, thank you. You know, I'll get up at 7:30 and go to work, you know. But so this is, the beginning is just like poison. So in the process of practicing yoga, any kind of yoga, there's going to be austerities, and you overcome the reluctance to do that by understanding the necessity of it with your mind, and also by through doing that, becoming able to experience the pleasure of especially bhakti yoga. And the wonderful thing is that, you know, you practice some other kind of yoga. What are you really getting out of it? Oh, I feel much healthier and much more limber, you know. It's more or less a mental and physical thing. But with bhakti yoga, from day one, as soon as you start chanting Hare Krishna, it's a spiritual pleasure, you know. Even though there's also, you know, the chanting and all of that may, you think, well, this is a physical pleasure. But no, it's actually spiritual, because Krishna is pleased, and the pleasure he's giving you, and seeing that, you know, that you're participating. So that's what's going on here. That spiritual pleasure, you start off, and it can be, you know, pretty tough for a little while, because there are austerities, no question about it. You know, the other thing is the service. Like I remember, we had a lot of devotees, and we had a lot of prasadam, we had a lot of pots. You know, even more than we have here. And as far as I remember, there was always one guy who was assigned to do the pots. So, and it was, you know, and I remember I did my share of pots, but there was this one fellow who relished doing the pots, and he was in a wheelchair, I swear to God. And he you know, and he would be bravely reaching in, doing the pots and everything. It was very impressive, you know. And so that kind of example inspires you to get over the hump and you know, really take it seriously. And before long, just by the routine, the chanting, the dancing, the japa, the classes, and outside the kirtan, you know, we went on a nice Harinam here. You were on there, I think, there. And that's really a lot of the nectar, you know, you can really experience, because you're giving the holy name to other people, and you see the response. And why is that more pleasing to you? Because it's so pleasing to Lord Chaitanya and Krishna and Prabhupada. They're seeing that this person is actually taking part. And then later on, when I read the third canto, very nice. This is Lord Kapila's teachings to his mother, Devahuti, you know, in the latter part of the third canto. And she has this verse. She understands that her son is an incarnation, you know. So, aho bata shapachoto gariyan yadjigragre vartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhavu sasnaraya brahmanuchur nama gunanti yete. Bhakti loves these verses, even though I don't think he understood a word of what I was saying. Now, here's the translation. It's even more now. Aho, how wonderful it is. This is his mother saying. Swapacho, even the dog eaters, Swapacho are those who cook dogs, and if you cook it, you're going to eat it. So it's understood. Swapacho. How glorious are they, even if they were born as dog eaters, you know, who are somehow or other chanting your holy name. She's speaking to her son. She knows he's an incarnation of God, Lord Kapila Dev. Shopachogi, Yajig, on the tip of their tongue is the name, Krishna, Krishna. Vartate namatubhyam. Your name is vibrating. It must be that in the previous lives, te pus tapaste juhavusasnaraya brahmanuchu nama gunandiyete. Those who were chanting a name in previous births must have, what does it say? Te pus tapas. They must have performed all kinds of austerities, bathed in all the holy places, and studied all the Vedas to be at the point now of just vibrating your holy name. This is one of the several dozen verses in the Bhagavatam dealing with the glories of chanting the holy name. So anyway, that's you know, this verse can be realized by taking up the process of devotional circuit. Okay. Now that's mode of goodness. Now here's the mode of passion. In text 38. Vishayendriya sangyogad yatadagre mitopamam padiname vishamiva tatsukam rajasam smritam. That happiness, which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be the nature of passion. Purport: a young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from the combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. Now this is a perfect chance for me to... did I do Om Jnana? I think I did do it. Okay, sorry, I forgot. The verse that I must have chanted 100 times in these classes over the years. Text, chapter 5, text 22. Yehi sangsparjaja boga dukkha yonaya evate adyantabanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Intelligent person does not take part or participate. The intelligent person does not participate in the happiness or pleasures that are derived from the context of the senses with their sense objects. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the source of all distress, and they have a beginning and an end, and so the wise do not delight in them. So that's exactly echoing this very verse, you see. There's no doubt that that when we come into this world or we grow up in this world, take birth, there are various senses that present to the mind. At a certain age, the sex desire grows up. But before then, even there's all kinds of things to eat, and I remember when I grew up, the TV was just starting to come in. I'm that old, believe it or not, early 50s, and before long, the black and white TV. Forget about color. There was Gunsmoke. That was thing, and there was, I think, Howdy Doody, I don't know, and it was something they had a thing where you could put a little plastic thing over the TV screen, and then you draw. They tell you how to draw on there. They did that for a while, So that was very fascinating for my, 7-year-old mind, very absorbing. So that's a pleasure, but it appears like nectar but poison at the end. Well, I don't know if it ever became poison, but I kind of outgrew it. It was kind of, because after a certain point, the schoolwork is there, you have to do that. Now that's real poison. I mean, I remember this long report I wrote on the economy of Brazil. Can you believe it? I got an A, but so that was definitely poison at the beginning. Hare Krishna, welcome. So we'll have darshan at 8:15. Until then, we'll have a class on Bhagavad Gita, which you're perfectly welcome to join. You can sit here on the benches or on the seat here. We have books for you. It looks like the child is very quiet and meditative, so that's good. But if it gets too loud, then we take it outside. You can stay in here. Maybe the child will start chanting the verses. Yeah, you can sit here or on the bench. Bench will be maybe more comfortable, whatever you like. We are on page 684 at the bottom. Text 39. Okay, page 684 at the bottom. All right, that was passion, which we should try to avoid because, just think, it's because of these sense pleasures that we are prevented from really even inquiring about, is there something else? If the body is, if you're just absorbed in sense pleasure, then that's a very, that's entrapping. You'll be becoming entangled in the material world, and the chances are you're going to take birth again. Maybe as a human being, but maybe below, So that's in this chapter, Krishna is giving examples of different kinds of things: understanding, intelligence, and here happiness in the different modes of nature. So we did goodness and passion, and now we're going to do ignorance. Yes, but you have to speak into the mic. There's one. There's one also over there you can keep. Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of curious that writing a report on the economy of Brazil is a poison. I could see it being maybe kind of neutral. Obviously it's not Krishna consciousness, but it is intellectual development, right?
Yeah, it's probably not that good an example, I probably got an A in it because I was, smarty pants when I was in high school. But it's just an example. It's not as cut and dried as this, meaning that, okay, it was an austerity to do it, but there was a result that I got an A and I got, so there's a certain amount of pleasure there. But the point is, it's completely divergent. It has nothing to do with the real purpose of knowledge and the goal, and it keeps your mind absorbed in the things of this world. And ultimately, that's going to bring you back again to suffer birth, old age, disease, and death. So we want to avoid that. Now, text 39, happiness in the mode of ignorance. Yadagre chana bandecha sukham mohanamatmanaha nidralasya pramadotam tattama samudaritam. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Purport. One who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance. And one who has no idea how to act and how not to act, and this we learned from previous verses, is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or the end, or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end, distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress, both in the beginning and at the end. So we've learned quite a bit about the modes of nature from chapter 14 already, chapter 17. So basically the mode of ignorance is most rapidly self-destructive. Mode of ignorance is, intoxication, extra sleep, uncleanliness, which produces disease, all these things. So we want to avoid that at all costs. The process of Krishna conscious bhakti yoga is based on establishing oneself in the sattvic mode, being clean, self-controlled, and especially inquiring into spiritual truth. That's the most important thing. Association. This is the greatest thing. Srila Prabhupada gave us so much when he came, in the 60s. He comes into the middle of the hippie era, and for the first practically a year, he didn't really make much headway. But when he finally found a little, foothold in America, in the Lower East Side of New York City, he had an environment where he could speak to interested persons, and he could present the chanting, which was unique and attractive in and of itself. What the Srika Prasadam, very important, and so he was training them, even without them knowing about it. They were changing their orientation about what they felt was important in life and what the goal of life is and all these different things. And we can consciously do that. We know. And this is all due to him giving his association as well, because he was an example of what he was teaching us. of how, going through all those austerities to establish it, but being equipoised in that first year, where things seems touch and go, And, he even, he would even go down to the port, the Jaladuta office to see when the boat was going back, when boats were going back. But he never got on the boat. He never actually gave up and went back to India, at that point. Later he went back to preach. So it was clearly a challenge, to his determination and his faith in the orders of the spiritual master and all these things. And he always chose to keep trying, to be confident that Krishna will one day bless him with success, and he blessed him with incredible success. And this is the result, worldwide movement that's still growing. Books in 60, 70 languages, Bhagavad Gita, So this is also a great example for us, that when we get over the hump, of our conditioning, and through the development, strengthening the intelligence, controlling the lower self, fixing the mind on Krishna, trying to chant with attention, do the right thing, then we develop spiritual strength to actually follow everything. And the more we do that, the more spiritual pleasure we get from the very practices that we had trouble doing at first, chanting, but then just taste the nectar of the holy name. And what is that verse? That famous verse? Madaram madarebhyopi, mangalebhyopi mangalam, pavanam pavanebhyopi, harinam eva kevalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. So we can come to the point of thinking that if it's the sweetest thing, and you can't overeat the holy name, you can chant as much as you want, then why not chant it all the time? Taste that sweetness. That's the point. There's no limit to the amount that you can relish. There's no satiation. That's a very important. There's no satiation. Whereas with any material pleasure, there is definitely satiation. You eat more than you can, then you get sick. But you can't ever chant too much. Okay, so where do we go now? Text 40. Okay, now I think he's going to change gears here now. Natarasti prativyam va divideveshu va punaha sattvam prakatijaya muktam yadebi syatvibi gunai. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods and the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. Purport. The Lord here summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe. So Prabhupada wants to get through this chapter and publish the book, so the purports are getting shorter and shorter. Okay, now Brahman, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. How do they come in now? Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam Chaparantapa Karmani Pravibhaktani Swabhava Prabhavargunai. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures, in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. So now he's going to give the predominating qualities of the different Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Text 42. Shamodamastapakshaucham Chantarajadamevacha Gyanam Vijnanam Astikyam Brahmakarma Swabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Hare Krishna. We're going to have to... Shh. I know. It's hard for him to concentrate. It's hard enough for them to concentrate. Isn't it? Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty. Now you can, if you like, you can wait in the lobby till 8:15. Knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness, these are the natural qualities by which the Brahmins work. And these have been described before in different parts of the book. Okay. Shauyam tejo tatir dakshyam yudhe cha papalayanam Dhanam Ishvara Bhavascha, Chatram Karma Swabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Okay. 44. Krishigorakshavanijam, Vaishyakarma Swabhavajam, Paricharyatmakam Karma, Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there are labor and service to others. Sve sve karman yabidatak, Sangsiddhim labate naraha, Swakarman nadatak siddhim, yata vindati tachinu. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Yatak pravittir bhutanam, yena sarvamidam tatam, sakarmanatam abhyarcha, siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Meaning that by worshiping the Lord through his own work, one can attain perfection. That's the idea here. Purport. As stated in the 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadyasya Yataha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord, by his two energies, his external energy and internal energy, is all-pervading. Therefore, one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally, the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy. His external energy is a perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is a background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the supersoul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then, by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 12:7, Tesham aham samudharta. The Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Yeah, so this is an important verse because it means this is encouraging for, say, the householders who are engaged in all kinds of work. So the point is that ideally one should make his home into as much of a temple as possible. So that pictures on the wall, they're uplifting the of Krishna and Radha and Ram and the other thing. The sounds that you're hearing, so many bhajans and kirtans. You know, the food that you're eating is offered. You can have a little altar and everything like that. And then, of course, then one has to work in order to support the wife and family. So whatever is left over from the sheer maintenance should be, as far as possible, engaged in the service of the Lord in one way or another. And in this way, one can feel while one is working and doing or just driving the work, I'm doing this for Krishna, you see, because he's going to enjoy the fruit. After all, he's Rishikesh. He's the master of the senses. Whose senses? Yours. These are his senses. We're thinking they're ours, but they actually belong to him. Just like we ourselves are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, It's just like the hand. Probably give the example of the hand. You don't think twice. You want to grab something, and okay. I didn't think, okay, now brain, now send that impulse down the nerves and think. No, I don't have to do that. It's already built in. That's the way it works. But still, the hand is meant to serve. If it becomes paralyzed, then it becomes a burden. It's not a real hand anymore. You see? So our whole existence, what do we have to work with? The mind, intelligence, the senses, the will, our desire. There's a scientific process, how it's beautifully outlined and described by Rupa Goswami, which he learned from Lord Chaitanya. How to mold one's life in such a way that he's always feeling that connection to Krishna. That you're not just existing, but you're using your vital energy and everything to connect to Krishna, serve Krishna, his interest. And his main interest, let's be honest, is to have more and more people think about him and glorify him. So whatever you can do in a way of serving the Sankirtan movement is especially pleasing to Krishna. These wonderful book distributors we have going out, I tried it. I never got over the hump. But I was very relieved when I found, if I proofread the books, because the books were being produced, where I was working, then I can participate in the Sankirtan movement. So and it was a good bunch of us doing that. So then your ability, your intelligence, your ability, your mind, everything that you're doing, you could say, this is going to produce this book, which will then take Prabhupada's words out and Krishna's words out and bring more people. So in that way, serving Krishna's interest. And in that way, you can come to the point of really feeling transcendental pleasure just by doing what you have aptitude to do. And so many painters, Prabhupada loved the artists, gave them so much facility. And you can see the result. Wonderful art that they produced. They became better and better as they did it. And Prabhupada saw these as, he doesn't see it as art, windows to the spiritual world, And so whatever we can do, if we're perfectly good to be like a suja, be like a handyman taking care of the temple. I mean, how fortunate is that to be able to do things practically for the temple, like our friend Kaviraj, who's joined. He's very good at that, So he's going to help put up the new door, and do other practical things. And he's a cook, So that's what this verse is all about. By worship of the Lord, through performing one's own work, one can attain perfection through performing, that work. That's the whole idea here. And it's a very seminal verse, so many, that's a relief, You mean I don't have to go during the ashram and take those cold showers at 3 in the morning? No. You have to have the Brahminical qualities, cleanliness and everything. But you should organize your life in such a way that you're chanting and you're progressing on the path. That's what this is all about. So it's encouraging to everybody. The point is nobody is barred if you're willing to make the effort to make those, give up those things which are real obstacles and accept those activities which are very conducive. That's the definition of surrender. There's a word called sharanagati. Sharanagati means going for the shelter, taking shelter of Krishna. So there's, of course, a verse describing what are the 6 limbs of sharanagati. Very important verse. What is it? Oh, now I see. Oh, yeah. Anukulyena sankalpa pratikulyasya bharjanam rakshishyatiti vishvaso goptadvevadanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidag sharanagati. I may have one word wrong there. So the 6 limbs of this sharanagati, of surrender, is to accept those things favorable for devotional service. Okay, I'll get some beads and I'll chant. Okay, I'll read Bhagavad Gita. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. And then there's things that you have to give up. Practical yasta bharjanam. Things which are against devotional service you have to give up. Specifically 4 regulative principles: no illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and meat eating. Thank you. So those are the basic ones. But there are others, associating with non-devotees, hearing, non-devotional sounds. These are all things you want to try to minimize and eventually give up. So those are the first two. Then, Rakshishyatiti Vishwa, be confident that Krishna will protect. This is a big surrender. The perfect example, the residents of Vrindavan. All these demons are coming, but they're confident that Krishna will save them, and he does repeatedly. So that's a big one. And also that he will maintain. Yes, we have to make an effort, of course, but we should have faith that Krishna will, if we're really serving him sincerely, we will have the necessities of life. As he says, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham in the 8th chapter. I forget the beginning of the verse. Basically, one who is always thinking of me, then Yoga Kshema Vahamyam, I personally carry the yoga and the kshema. Now, the word yoga has a lot of different meanings. Here it means those necessities that you need to live. And kshema is your security and safety. So there's the protection in the other one. So if you have those things in enough quantity, you can live in this world, necessities and security. So Krishna will provide that for his dear devotees, as he did, spectacularly in Vrindavan. There's so much, prosperity, and of course the demons are coming. He's always killing them and saving them. So and finally, Atmanikshepta Karpanye, to always remain meek and humble, and to have no interest separate from Krishna's interest. This full surrender is a challenge, but it's necessary. All right, text 47, moving right along. Oh yeah.
How would you differentiate meek and humble?
That's a good question. Meek is to have an attitude of submission. Humble means that you don't feel that, oh, I'm a great devotee. And there's an internal thing that's happening, which may manifest as meekness. Humble is kind of an internal. He's very humble. That he doesn't. He's such an exalted person, but he doesn't have he doesn't show any sense of pride and false ego and lording it over. You see, so that it's evidence in your outer, but internally you're really feeling. And Prabhupada showed that he's such an exalted soul. When he comes to America, he writes that wonderful poem, Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma, Krishna consciousness in the West. Writes it in Bengali, then it's translated. And so he says, I am most unqualified of Krishna. So if you want me to be a success, then you have to, make my power of speaking such that it'll impress him. I am your puppet. So if you want him to say, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance, O Lord, as you like, So that's real humility. Not thinking you have any qualifications separate from what Krishna is going to empower you with. So it's a slight difference, and it manifests in meekness, meaning external manifestations of humility and being ready. It's Trinadapi Sunichena. It says amanina manadena. What is it? That I have in the poem. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. To think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant his name incessantly until the final hour. So there it is, meekness and humbleness, all in one verse. All right, moving right along here. Text 47. Shreyan Swadharmo Viguna Padadharmat Swanushtitat Swabhava Niyatam Karma Kurvanapnoti Kilbisham. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Purport. One's occupational duty is prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is what, when you were a kid, we had these all the time. Periodically, they give us an aptitude test. What is this person good? Is he good with his hands? He will be great as a car mechanic, or his mathematical and English skills are great. He'll be a professor or something, So aptitude tests, and then they try to guide you to take. When you go to high school, you have some choices what courses to take and like that, especially in college. So that's what it means by an occupation performed perfectly. So an own occupation is like what the qualities of a Brahmin. Well, he's naturally studious and self-controlled, And Kshatriya, he has a natural tendency to lead others and fight, And Vaishya, he can make money, he has the idea to make money. And the Shudras, manual labor, that's they're happy doing that. So that's the idea. So it's better that that the Shudra should not try to be a Kshatriya. This is what it'll just cause havoc in one's own life and in society. Duties, okay, purport. One's occupational duty is prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita. As already discussed in previous verses, the duties of a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are prescribed according to the particular modes of nature. One should not imitate another's duty. A man who is by nature attracted to the kind of work done by Shudras should not artificially claim to be a Brahmana, although he may have been born into a Brahmin family. In this way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord. The occupational duty of a Brahmin is certainly in the mode of goodness, but if a person is not by nature in the mode of goodness, he should not imitate the occupational duty of a Brahmin. For a Kshatriya, or administrator, there are so many abominable things. A Kshatriya has to be violent to kill his enemies, and sometimes a Kshatriya has to tell lies for the sake of diplomacy. Such violence and duplicity accompany political affairs, but a Kshatriya is not supposed to give up his occupational duty and try to perform the duties of a Brahmin. One should act to satisfy the Supreme Lord, so that one sentence is practically the whole idea. For example, Arjuna was a Kshatriya. He was hesitating to fight the other party. But if such fighting is performed for the sake of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there need be no fear of degradation. In the business field also, sometimes a merchant has to tell so many lies to make a profit. If he does not do so, there can be no profit. Sometimes the merchant says, "Oh, my dear customer, for you I'm making no profit." But one should know that without profit, the merchant cannot exist. Therefore, it should be taken as a simple lie if a merchant says that he is not making a profit. But the merchant should not think that because he is engaged in an occupation in which the telling of lies is compulsory, he should give up this profession and pursue the profession of a Brahmana. That is not recommended. Whether one is a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or a Shudra doesn't matter, if he serves by his work the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even Brahmins who perform different types of sacrifice sometimes must kill animals because sometimes animals are sacrificed in such ceremonies. Similarly, if a Kshatriya engaged in his own occupation kills an enemy, there is no sin incurred. In the 3rd chapter, these matters have been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of yajna, or for Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything done for personal sense gratification is the cause of bondage. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. Yagyartat kamano yatra loko yam karma bandhana tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Work should be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Yajna can also mean Vishnu, so the word yajna. Otherwise, whatever work you do is going to bind you to this material world. That's the idea. If it may be something that externally looks very pleasing or very nice, but if it is not for the sake of Vishnu, it's not within the realm of devotional service, then it's going to bind you. Even to the mode of goodness, you still get bound up. You have to come, to pure goodness and actually transcend the modes entirely. Okay. 48. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Purport. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmin, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire, fire is still considered to be the purest of all elements. If one prefers to give up the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of a Brahman there are no unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world, no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in wintertime one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body, but still one must make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. So the idea is, you have the option. You may be washing the pots. Okay, I think you have that experience. Wash the pots. So, but what's your consciousness when I'm washing the pots? Why do I have to wash the pots? I did that yesterday, wash the pots. But if while you're washing the pots, you think, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So you say, oh, this is great. This is a service I can do while chanting Hare Krishna. Let me take advantage of it. I always like to give the example of that blissful Brooklyn temple when I joined. It was really happening. We all had to go out 3 hours a day in Harinam Sankirtan, and that was a great tonic. So, and we had so many devotees that every day we did a Maha cleanup, because everyone had a little corner of the temple that you could do, so you could actually get it done before breakfast. So I don't think it was my regular duty, but that day my duty was to mop the temple floor. There was no mop; it was just like wet cloth. So I'm sitting there. I'm in the temple, which was maybe 2/3 as big as this temple. This is a little bit bigger. And I'm alone there, and there's Radha Govinda behind me. Beautiful deities. And Gauranatai, I think we had Jagannath deities also. So and playing behind me is Yamuna singing. Govindan Jaya Jaya Gopalan Jaya Jaya Radharamana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. It had just been recorded. It was like a new recording, very sweet. So that's going on. I'm trying to sing along, and I'm just mopping the floor, looking back at Radha Govinda. So this is the perfection of life, I've got the deities here. I've got the kirtan going on. I'm serving Krishna. So. But if I was doing that because I was some janitor somewhere mopping the floor, God, when is my break? I can get a sandwich or something. It wouldn't be blissful. It would be suffering. So that's the idea, is that with Krishna consciousness, if it's really your duty and this Krishna is pleased with this, then you can undergo great austerities, as Prabhupada did. And in the beginning stages, of course, those who are bringing you along Krishna consciousness, they shouldn't give you more than you can take. Yes, you have to do the pots, Bhakta Luis, but this is just your day. Tomorrow is Bhakta Jim, and next day it's Dr. Harry. I remember there was this one devotee, I think I mentioned this, he was in a wheelchair, but he still insisted on doing his turn in doing the pots, which is very impressive. That's new guys, So that's the idea, that whatever we do, especially if you're in an ashram situation, there's an authority, so you're following the authorities. Okay, it's a little austere, but it's approved. And then the reward is evening arti. What do you want, a book? Oh, she wants to ask a question or make a comment. You have to just, until it turns on. You have to press the button until the light goes on. Okay.
Yeah. considering we have to think everything is our duty and in the consciousness of Krishna, but is it like...
I'm afraid we're going to have to adjourn because they're going to blow the conch. I went over time.
Okay.
8:15. But maybe afterward. Okay?
Sure.
It'll just be 15-minute kirtan. Okay,
Sure.
I'm sorry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.